The sands of time very nearly went against Mansfield Town, but a late double dip into the loan market to sign 2 defenders left the Stags fans and boss Nigel Clough feeling very relieved.
Well, they give us some much needed cover, first of all, and also vie for a starting place. Losing James Perch for an indefinite period has been a huge blow for us, so we definitely needed to strengthen that area. Ideally would have liked a little bit more experience there, but we just missed out on a couple that we've been working on. But we've got these 2 lads in the background and just pressed the button on them when we didn't get the others.
The additions of Richard Narty from Burnley and Will Forrester from Stoke gives Mansfield much needed cover. But with experienced man James Perch out indefinitely with a head injury, the Stags could well still do business with a pool of free agents all eager for a deal. Christmas is around the corner after all. We'll talk about that, no, not Christmas, plus lots more, including the under-par performances and strength in depth as the Stags lose their opening Papa John's Trophy group game at Harrogate 3-1. We'll also reflect on the season's opening month. As always, we want you to get involved in the comments, so let us know your thoughts. Are you pleased with the transfer business? Are you satisfied with the opening month's performances? Anything you want to say that's Stags related, get it in the comments right now if you want it in the live feed. If you listen to the audio version of this, hit us up on social media or come and join us on a live show. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield matters. Two loan signings on deadline day for Stags boss Nigel Clough to alleviate defensive worries, but a defeat in the Papa John's Trophy. Is all rosy with Mansfield Town? Can they find their feet again as they face Harrogate again in Sky Bet League 2? And will the two new signings be enough to see the Stags through later on as the season goes on? As always, get involved in the comments and have your say on your team as I'm joined by, some would say, a crack team of Mansfield Town supporters to have their say on their team. As usual, we've got Clive Parkin. Good evening, Clive. Come in, Clive.
Good evening.
How are you? Are you well? Have you recovered from last night yet?
I wasn't troubled by last night. It was that non-event that I predicted it would be. I can't lose sleep over losing in the Papa Luigi Cup.
One man who can potentially lose sleep over the Papa Luigi Cup, other than me, is Mr. Nathan Edge. Come in, Mr. Edge. How are you?
Evening, yeah. Very well. Good as can be. Still reflecting over last night, and I'm still not 100% sure how I feel. So hopefully by the end of this, you can help me out with that.
Did you just say good as can be or good as can be?
No, what's it? Cam? That rings a bell. Cam rings a bell. Who's Cam?
This guy! There he is! Hello, mate. How are you? Have you sorted your audio out yet? Because we were badly echoing through you before.
I think so.
You think so? Dear me. Yeah. Where have you been? What have you been doing? And why did you leave rugby? Why did you watch rugby to not do the podcast?
I mean, by the room, it's new setup, new TV. Well, same old TV, but new setup, new flat. I went to the rugby because it was one of my last nights of freedom before moving in here. But hang on.
Oh, what's he doing now? You know, I don't know what he's doing. This is so unprofessional, and I can hear myself back because he's not got headphones and he's not got the. Oh, there's a child.
Have you stolen that?
Would you care to explain for those who don't follow Mansfield Matters that you've
My little girl was born on the 24th of July, same day that we played Hull, and since then she's been living with my partner in Lincoln, so like Lincoln sort of way. because of how hospitals work with the care and the community midwives. So last week we finally moved into our new flat and getting settled and just enjoying being a little family.
I have two questions for you. The first one
Sounds very tired.
is why isn't she in a Mansfield Town baby grow? And
Her shirt is somewhere.
And the second question is, why have you woken her up when we're doing a podcast?
She's fine.
Irresponsible parenting. I'll let you give her a cuddle and settle her back down. Tell her that Uncle Craig says hello. Whilst he does that, Nath, transfer deadline day yesterday. 2 signings were brought in. 2 defenders on loan, but is it enough?
Time will tell. That's all we can say. Obviously, let's give them a chance to come in and see what they are going to bring to the plate. Obviously, we needed them in, and we've got the players in the positions that we needed. So centre back and a player that can, with a bit of versatility, that can go right back and centre back. So that ticks those 2 boxes. The only question mark I have got over it is just it feels a little bit like January, early this year. The January transfer window where, all right, we've done the business, but it feels like it's been sort of plan D or E, and we've missed out on plan A, B, and C, which happens. It happens in transfer windows, and in some ways, I'm glad that we're not panicking and throwing money at it and trying to, overspend what we may have. So positive. Then you've got the negative is that going to leave us short, for the season, and could that be the difference between top 7 and mid-table? Sort of thing. So, mix it, but at least we have got players in through the door. Give them the opportunity to see what they can do.
As always, have your say on your team in the comments right now. If you want, whatever platform you're watching on, drop us a comment. Let us know your thoughts on the new signings and the transfer dealings. Cam, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, you've been watching from afar. You've been to a few home games as well. What have you made of Nigel Clough's business in the last 24 hours? Because there were so many rumours that we were going to go after one of your ex-favourite players from Salford.
You're funny. I want to say average, because we've heard all these stories over the last few weeks, like we're going to be signing such and such and such and such, and then we're thinking like, right, Clough's always said it's going to be someone that's going to improve the side, and it will improve the side, but it's not going to improve straight away, because firstly, one of the players that we signed yesterday was, he's out for 2 weeks still. So, and my camera's turned itself off.
I'm sure Cam will sort that out. We'll drop him out as he sorts that. Nathan, what Cam was saying there, it's an interesting one to have as well, isn't it? Because we've brought these players in, as Cam says, one of which is injured. The other one's only 22, although he does come highly rated. We'll hear from him as well, Richard Nartley from Burnley. He's highly rated, but Nigel Clough made it abundantly clear that he wanted an experienced player, and it just didn't quite happen, did it?
No, that bit where I'm saying it kind of, in the end, underwhelming. When the first one came through, I was concerned that if that's it, then I still think we're going to be a little bit short, and especially the fact that he's come with an injury. And yes, they're saying 2 weeks till he hopefully will be able to join us. But sometimes with injuries, you never know. It could be long. Is it going to be something that could be reoccurring? So, I'd imagine Stag would have done their research on that, and because we've now brought in somebody else, we're not going to be over reliant on him. So, if worst case scenario is that keep reoccurring or it does take longer, that second signing for me that came through did make me feel much more comfortable. And like we say, it's for me, it still feels like plan E online. So I think we, obviously Keith Curl's come out and said that we were in for an Oldham player, which I would have seen, up there in plan A. We were working for experience. There was no sort of hiding that fact, and we've obviously lost out on that and had to go. But at least we brought somebody in with, I think, a good reputation, good pedigree, come from the likes of Chelsea, and they do produce a lot of talented players. So I'm feeling more positive about that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he fits in.
Clive, where do you sit with it all? Because, like Nathan says, a couple of younger players, but he felt a lot more better, felt more relieved with that second signing, the guy on loan from Burnley. We got it on the way back last night as we were coming back from Harrogate. How did it make you feel on reflection to bring those two in?
I'm tempted to say underwhelmed. Clearly Clough was after something bigger and better and didn't get it. To his credit, I think it was essential that we got some cover in place because we are so thin in those key positions. So at least we've covered the plan B element, covered the numbers we need. But I think he was looking for someone a little bit more, if you like, A grade. I'm not knocking these players. I don't know much about them, and I think Narty comes very well recommended, and certainly he's very articulate in talking about coming to the Stags. I think the Forester chap I know nothing about, but you've got to trust the club. They're in there. They're looking at players right, left, and centre all the time, and therefore they've got layers of interest in various people. But I'm comfortable that we will go fishing again in January and probably find the players we were looking for the first time round.
And of course, another thing we can do, which is Nathan's favourite thing, is to bring in free agents. Nigel Clough has been quite vocal about this today, saying that, actually because of COVID and a few things like that, there are a fair few free agents out there that it could be a possibility. So even though, the transfer window is closed, Nath, it might not be the end of business. There are a fair few players out there. It's just about finding the right one.
Yeah, I'm not holding out too much. Oh, there we go. Not holding out too much hope with this because it's been difficult, even during the summer transfer window, to get this type of players we're looking for in the defensive area. So. When you start looking at free agents, you then question why they're free agents. Is it because injuries? Have they been holding out to maybe try and get more money? So there is more risk when it comes to free agents, I think. But at the end of the day, you never know what can come up, and I'm sure if we dive into the archives, I think we have probably managed to pick up some good free agents over time anyway. So, and at our level, they do come available every now and then. So it's not be all and end all. And we can continue shopping, and you just never know who might crop up. But it just would have been nice to get it done and settled, and then we can just concentrate on the league now and until January. Then we could try and strengthen obviously any further there. So yeah, we'll see on that one.
As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Love to have your say on your team tonight. Really want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think in the comments. Roy has been in touch to say, well said, Clive. Underwhelmed is exactly what I thought, but you never know. Yeah, plenty of potential there from the young lad on loan from Burnley. But game time will tell, and that's going to be the important thing, isn't it, Cam? About getting these into the side, getting them playing, getting them integrated with the group, and to see what they can do. Because so far early in the season, Rawson, Hewitt haven't had much competition. There's only really been the three of them. We'll touch upon Perch again in a minute with his injury, but to have two more defenders coming, it really does bolster the numbers, and regardless of experience, it pushes the standards up a little bit.
Yeah, it does, because we've not really got much to challenge Rawson, and obviously Hewitt would be Kellen Gordon, but he seems to be off the scene at the moment, which I suppose is disappointing, because you look at the game against Bradford, and as fans we were saying, bring Gordon on second half, Lo and behold, we get done over in the second half down that right hand side, which is so frustrating. But we've got so much strength and depth going forward. It's just in the defence where we have been lacking, and that's been an issue for the last 2 seasons, possibly. I think even when Graham Coughlin was in charge, we were very much stuck with the same sort of players, and we couldn't really change it up at the back. We were very much stuck with the same sort of players. So good to get some bodies in. Frustrating that obviously Will Forrester's out for another 2 weeks, but it is an extra man in there. It shakes the squad up, and for something that where we were saying Rawson was improving towards the tail end of the season, it seems like he's taken 2 steps back this season. So hopefully, with 2 central defenders coming in, it gives a rocket up his arse and it gets him to perform the way that we know he can. He starting to perform more towards the end of the season last season. We've seen it so far in spells, but he still looks a bit shaky. So that competition might be the best way to develop. Never mind just keep playing, bring the competition in, and nothing wrong with a bit of healthy competition in the squad.
Yeah, there certainly isn't. Keep your comments coming in. This one from Owen says, "Evening all. My personal opinion on the defenders. Agreed with Clive. Underwhelming for me. Hit and miss defending is not ideal at all. I trust Clough and hope the clean sheets start coming." That's the big thing, isn't it, Clive? That's the next sort of itch to scratch and box to tick. We need to get a clean sheet just to boost the confidence, because like we've been saying for the past 2 or 3 weeks, failure to do so means that we're going to be relying on our strikers to go and score 3 or 4 goals a game, because we know we've got mistakes in us. So getting that clean sheet and making us hard to break down, if it means we have to sacrifice goal scoring for a game just to get that right, I've got no problem with that, because that's got to be our fundamental. That's got to be our building block.
Not sure I agree. I think we need to get the striking thing sorted out as well. I don't think there's a problem with strikers, except they just haven't had the luck yet. They're desperately keen to start scoring, and sometimes that gets in the way of performance. But if we win 3-1 every game, I'm quite happy with that. Yes, of course we want clean sheets, and it's good for the defensive unit, it's good for their spirit, it's good for the goalkeeper. And so, yes, we have to work on that. But we have been completely dependent on James Perch alongside an acceptably fallible Faz Rawson. And it is flimsy, as now is proved by James Perch's injury. And I'm really quite disturbed to hear this is an open-ended timescale. Is there more to this than we've heard about? Normally, a head knock, it's a week away from the pitch, but I'm reading between the lines, this is more to it than that. So I hope it isn't that as serious as it could be.
Yeah, that's the feeling I'm getting from this as well. I mean, Nigel Clough has confirmed in his press conference today that Perch will be out for an indefinite amount of time. So, you know, with all head injuries, you've obviously got to take them as seriously as possible. But what concerns me is the fact that, you know, a couple of weeks before he had that nasty little knock and cut to his face. And then he played. I don't know if anyone would have seen it, but the last home game where he played, he ended up heading a ball and the bandage came off and it remained off. It wasn't patched up for the second half, and I just wonder if that was exposed, whether that's done a little bit of damage going up to head a ball or getting into tackles. But yeah, certainly to have him out indefinitely, Nath, is it's a bit of a concern, considering he's the older statesman that we all, you know, have come to rely on at the back. Yeah,
and I think that just highlights our defensive frailty, doesn't it? You know, I mean, everyone's been saying it all summer. It's not no secret that we're short there, and then we do say if we lose one, you know, obviously you're then even stretched even further, and it's still early in the season, and you got suspensions and things to possibly follow on. But losing, for me, probably arguably the most key player back there, you know, the most experienced, certainly the most experienced head anyway. If you're going to lose anybody at that back four, he's probably the one that you least wanted to lose out of all of them. So, you know, I did think last week it was that whole, you know, following the head injury protocol and keep them out for the week or whatever it's recommended these days to ensure safety. But like you say, there's more to it, and that is concerning. And then you back that up by not necessarily getting our main targets for that area in the transfer window. It just makes it a little bit worse, doesn't it? So. Going to what you said earlier, yes, I kind of agree. I still agree. I agree with you and Clive here that Obviously, some of it is down to just bad luck going forward, and I think we can score more. But obviously, we do need to do more going defensively, and if that means sacrificing a little bit of our attacking play, just in the interim, whilst we steady ourselves a little bit after, 4 games without a win, 3 games, isn't it? So, if it means steadying up 4, no, it's 4. God, without to steady ourselves a little bit, then so be it, and then build again.
Yeah, we do have to have a look at that. Cam, I think one thing, about the James Peart situation is, it's not just about his presence at the back and his calming influence. It's that experience. It's the way he can read a game a little bit more. And I just hope that, we wrap him in cotton wool and the club do absolutely everything we can to get him back out on that pitch as soon as possible, because when he's not in the side, you feel it and you notice it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got leaders on the pitch. This is a frustrating thing. We've got leaders on the pitch, but we just seem to lose our way a little bit when we do lose Perch, and that's a little bit frustrating, because when you need someone to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and make that big challenge, you think it was one of his tackles against Bradford. You're thinking, if he connects that, he's off. It's about a knee-high tackle, but it's that bit of grit and determination that you need to go out and win the ball. And we don't necessarily have that across the pitch in abundance. And so when you do lose a player like James Peart, it's just so frustrating for them, no one to really step up and make that sort of like part of the game theirs. But there obviously, like the conversation about obviously sacrificing going forward for the stability of the whole team. What do you do to do that? Do you drop someone a little bit deeper? You play someone like Ollie Clough a little bit deeper, for example. Do you play 5 at the back? Not like a 5 at the back, but a 4 with literally just Clark in front. It swings and roundabouts, and it really depends on how you want to set up, because there's some games where you need to be set up a little bit more defensively, but then you've got other games where you think, right, we've got to go out and absolutely hammer them for this one, and you think we're trying to play the best team that we've got and the best players and the best system, and it's so frustrating when things don't come off. And like Owen said in the comments, obviously clean sheets are a huge part of morale, and yeah, it is. Because if we're letting goals in at the back, then the strikers are having to do more. And if they're not doing their job, then we're just going to keep losing games. And it's finding that balance in the squad where we're attacking, we are clinical, but also we've got the stability across the rest of the pitch as well.
Paul also adds that we all know the defence needed an overhaul, had all summer to work on this, yet had to scramble to get 2 lads in who may or may not be the answer. And do you know what? This goes back to something you were saying, Nath, earlier on, actually, about it has feelings of the January transfer window, because it goes all the way back to the very, very start when we were after Tom Naylor. We were saying it a few weeks ago about whether or not missing out on him was going to come back to bite us. And I actually think it has in more than one way, because in Nigel Clough coming out and saying that he was going to be the highest earner by some considerable way, it put into supporters' minds and into their heads that we had this chunk of money, this percentage set aside for an experienced commanding defender, and we were all thinking, right, well, okay, if he's not available, it's still quite early. There's numerous people out there that could go and do this, but it never seemed to come. And as we were ticking closer and closer to deadline day, and in a sign didn't come, we're all thinking, is this there? Is it there? Is the funds there? Is the money there? And then
you got a feeling of deja vu. We've been here before.
Yeah, and I think that's the frustrating thing for me. It's the fact that this is the longest transfer window, and we've been so reliant on trying to get target A, and and not moving it on quick enough. I think we're a little bit guilty sometimes, Nathan, being a little bit over patient in terms of waiting for that player to sign, because we had the rug. If we believe what Clough says, we had the rug pulled under us yesterday, not once but twice. One by a club who wanted to keep the player rumoured to be the guy from Oldham, and then another who decided to join a League One club.
Yeah, but I also think we have possibly have got it quite difficult as well, in the fact that, you go back to that Tom Naylor interview, and obviously you say about us fans expecting this pot of cash there, knowing that he was going to be the highest earning by some way. Well, if we know that as fans, agents are going to know that, and other clubs are going to know that. So when it comes to us trying to make signings, especially if we're going to be paying a transfer fee, clubs are going to be pushing us for even more because they know that's there and available. So there's that issue. And then we've also got the issue of, because of what we did a few years ago, with when Steve Evans was in, we were throwing money at it, and even a little bit after him. So we're still, for some reason, and it bugs me, because after every game, when we get beaten by Swindon or Bradford or and teams like and Colchester, all the fans are popping up saying, "Oh, we've done well against big spending Mansfield." Well, we're not big spending anymore. We've cut back this season, for me, quite significantly. But I still think we are, at the moment, seen as a big spending club. And I think that's making our job even harder in the transfer window when it comes to signing players. So, and we know Nigel Clough doesn't want to spend for the sake of it. And I applaud him for that. But then you could also argue that's why we're kind of getting into this situation at the moment where we're not getting our number one targets, because I think we are trying to be more sustainable. I'm not going to over complain about that, because I think that's a good thing, but it's going to have an effect on the pitch. I think that's part of the reason why we've had a sort of an underwhelming finish to the transfer window.
Keep your comments coming in. We want to hear your views. Let us know your thoughts on the transfer dealings. And we're going to be talking Papa John's Trophy in a couple of minutes as well. First, though, let's head into the Stags dressing room and get the thoughts of Stags boss Nigel Clough, who spoke early today at the RH Academy, talking all about the transfer deadline dealings, the signings we've made, and those who we may or may not have missed out on. This is Stags boss Nigel Clough speaking to I Follow Stags.
Well, they'll give us some much needed cover, first of all, and also vie for a starting place. Losing James Perch for an indefinite period has been a huge blow for us. So we definitely needed to strengthen that area. Ideally, would have liked a little bit more experience there, but we just missed out on a couple that we've been working on. But we've got these two lads in the background and just pressed the button on them when we didn't get the others. Been at Chelsea is one of those for sort of 10 years or so as a youngster. So, he's had good grounding, a good upbringing in terms of football, having been around such a great club. So he came out, did really well for us at Burton in League One. Then sort of didn't have a club for a while, ended up at Burnley from last November, where he's played some 23 games. But most importantly, he's trained with the first team. And anybody who's been around Burnley's first team and the way that they play and train, and I spoke to Sean Dyche about him, said they really like him and they've been impressed. And he said, most importantly, he said the first team like him, which when you're a young player coming into that sort of Premier League squad, very, very important to impress your teammates. We were quite disappointed. We lost out. One, the club changed their mind, so we can't do anything about that. We'd agreed terms and everything, and with the player, and the club wouldn't let him go. And secondly, we lost out to a League One club. The player went to a League One club, another one, obviously much bigger resources than us. We just still like that experience. I think at the back, even more so after losing Perchy. But something we'll have to get through. But there is still that option. There's one or two free agents out there that we're looking at the moment for some more experience back there. So we'll see how that goes in the next week or so. But I think happy with our goalkeepers, It's a very important department, especially the three youngsters. So defensively need a little bit more. Midfield, happy. Miss Ryan Stirk when he was unavailable, certainly. But happy with the options in there. And we know we've got the 4 or 5 forward options as well. So balance is good of the squad. Obviously, the pandemic has left a lot of people, players, without clubs. So there's quite a few. It's just getting one good one amongst those. But there are, and you always used to be, I've got to get fixed up as a player before the window. Now you're not in too bad a position if the window shuts and you're still a free agent. You're in a stronger position in some ways, because people know they can't sign anybody else but free agents. They can't go and get loans. They can't get any permanents in. So all of a sudden, this pool, if anybody gets an injury in the next week or two, or like us, they're looking for some experience, then that's the only pool you can pick from.
Stags boss Nigel Clough speaking to iFollow Stags. For more of those interviews, of course, you can head to mansfieldtown.net/iFollow, where you'll see a full 11 or so minute interview with Nigel Clough from today's press conference. Not to mention an interview with the new guy who we shall hear from very, very shortly indeed. Keep your comments coming in and let us know your thoughts on your team. We're going to be talking formations very, very shortly indeed. I'm going to go over to Clive though for a second. Clive, Nigel Clough was saying in there about the squad and being happy with it. He wanted to bring in at least one body. He brought in two, irrelevant of their age and their position and things like that. Does that mean that we have enough numbers now to be able to cope with certain things, especially without going into too much detail, though, with the depth we've got? We'll have a rant about that in a couple of minutes or so. But in terms of the squad size, are you more comfortable now than what you were 2 days ago?
Slightly. We've certainly got a defender now in Narty that I'm guessing can come into the team. And with James Purchase plight, then it's more likely he'll come in quicker than he would have done. Yes, we've got an extra body there, and potentially another one when he gets over his injury. But everybody's right. We should have had this sorted out a while ago, and ideally we should have had a better quality player in the squad now who would be pushing these other guys out. These might do it. And equally, the nudge might get the more established players playing better. So I'm happier, but I'm not hysterically happy about the whole thing. But we are realistic at Mansfield Town. You've got to make do with what you've got half the time, and providing that the team plays more as a team, I'm not unduly worried. Some bright things saw on Tuesday that encouraging. I thought young Clarkey did well, especially as captain. In his first proper game. And I thought we saw a much more Lapsley-like performance from Lapsley as well. So I think there are one or two positives came out of that silly trophy game. And it's better than the training pitch match, I'll give it that. And the accommodation at Harrogate Town is ridiculously poor.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm wondering, like an old fella does, so move on.
No, I completely agree.
There's a story there.
There is a story there, and unfortunately, I don't have the image to put on screen because I'm not prepared enough. But Harrogate, their ground is poor for me. You get there, it's all street parking. You got to battle your way down a windy road to try and find a parking space with lots of random yellow lines everywhere stopping you parking. Then you get to the ground and you get to the little tea hut. They've got no proper brands or anything. It's just a massive urn and some
Yorkshire tea,
some horrible little cups and stuff. And then even then,
that's
if you
ironic considering Yorkshire tea is made by tailors of Harrogate. Even
if you want a drink and you're happy to settle for Tea Hut Tonya's £1.50 brew, if you've not got the right change, you can't have one unless you're willing to give them the change, unless you're willing to let them keep the change. It's an absolute disgrace. I wanted a drink. I had a £20 note. And think they're having the change from £20. Absolutely ridiculous.
What's really
and then I've started to finish, and then you get into, you try and find the toilet. It's hidden around the back, and then you get into the stand. You find a seat, and then you can't bloody see because the other half of the bloody other stand is cutting your view off. It's a horrible place to go. Yeah.
What's really
the football one was better.
They hadn't got any sausage rolls. That's what got his dander up.
And that's what's up with him there. Now, there we go. At least we've got Clive to
but even if they had got
story.
a sausage roll, I'd have still had to give them the change from a bloody £20 note because they wouldn't give any change or pay on card, which are, just not having it. My bank and think,
it's only a tin pot cup, though.
Look, regardless of competition, My rant about about Harrogate is overweight. Let's go back to the point, and that is: have we got the strength in depth? We lost, of course, 3-1. For me, we didn't play great. I thought we were actually quite poor in places last night. Maybe I'm being overcritical though, because it was a young squad, Nath. But still, I expect a certain level of performance and effort from across the board. That goes to the management as well. And it didn't come. And I'll tell you what annoyed me a little bit more, actually, was Clough's post-match, where he started off by saying, I don't really care about this. Well, that's fine. But what about the 135 or whatever it was fans who travelled, paid money, they expect to watch a certain level of performance and didn't see that. And that was very, very disappointing indeed.
Yeah, it might have been a little bit better if he said he doesn't really care about the defeat as such, even though it's still, I guess it's still the same, isn't it? But I don't know where to sit. This is what I'm saying a bit earlier. I don't know where to sit with this, because I'm with you. I see some benefits of the cup. Understand why people don't, but for we say it every time. I'm not going to go over it again. Watch last week's episode if you really want to know why me and Craig support it. But it comes to the end of it. I don't think a defeat's the end of the world. I'm not going to go on full-on meltdown mode like a lot of people have on social media and absolutely batter the players. I don't think that's necessary. It's got its benefits in the fact that we gave some players a good run out, such as Harry Charsley. Like Clive said, George Lapsley had a better game and it's more minutes than I still think he's building up his fitness. So it's a bonus for him. James Clark, we finally had the chance to see him, made captain. For me, best player in a Mansfield Town shirt. So on the night, so it's got its benefits there. It was a young team, but we were also against, all right, albeit a little bit more sort of experienced team in Harrogate, but it certainly wasn't their first team either. So I'm with you in the sense that it wasn't really an acceptable performance. Really, even with a weakened team, I would have liked to see us done a lot better. That said, we also, it could have been different if we put the penalty away and then didn't get the sucker punch of conceding straight away. Because that could have changed the game. But obviously that was a little horror story in the middle of the whole thing. But Harrogate deserved it overall, and I don't think there can be any complaints about that, despite our missed chances ourselves.
You've done it. You've lit the touch paper. Let's talk about him, Mr. Jordan Bowery, who, oh wow.
Super player.
What a player. Mark's asked, do you think Bowery has played his last game for the Stags as a striker? In a word, I bloody hope so. And you know what? When a player's down on confidence, you've got to put your arm around him and support him. But last night, he was probably the most experienced player on the pitch in a Mansfield Town shirt. And one thing which he didn't do was, even though he didn't have an armband on, was to be a leader. When we get that penalty, we just started playing much better football and getting a foothold into the game. When we get that penalty, a player of his experience and a player of his standing should do one thing and one thing only, and that's drill it down the middle. The keeper's going to move, hit it hard and low, put it out of the keeper's reach, and get back in the game and make a game out of it. What he does, tries to be cocky, like he did at Leyton Orient. He got away with it then at Leyton Orient, tries to be cocky, hits the bar, stands there looking at it, going, oh, what's just happened, whilst they go down the other end and score a goal. A calamity of errors started by a number 9 who should have been deregistered and put as a number 5, because when he played 10 minutes at centre-half, he was fantastic.
I'm going to come to his defence a little bit. I mean, players do miss penalties, and it's frustrating, whatever. I don't think people would be as much on his back if the fact that they didn't go down the other end and score. But that isn't just his fault. There was 10 other players on that pitch that could have stopped that ball from going in the back of the net. And they didn't do their jobs either. So that's my only defence I'm going to give him.
No, there's no defence there at all, because if he'd have got it on target and if he'd have not tried to be Mr. Fancy and put it in the top corner, wouldn't have needed the other 10 players on the pitch to try and help him out, because we'd have been celebrating and trotting back to the halfway line. Absolutely great.
It happened.
What if he put it on target and the keeper saved it?
Exactly.
Then it would have been a good save.
It can happen. It happens though, and it shouldn't end up in a goal in your own net. I get what you mean. Obviously, you shouldn't be missing from 12 yards, really, should. Let's be honest. But it does happen, but you shouldn't concede from it straight away. There was more faults than just Bowery.
Can I just answer a question from one of our viewers? Mark has asked, do we think Bowery has played his last game for the Stags as a striker? No, he's in the squad. He's there when needed. And he can contribute as he did during the last season. I'm not trying to defend what he did on last night at Harrogate, but it's no good having a rant over these things, Craig. As you grow older, like I am, you'll realise that ranting gets you nowhere.
It's doing me the world of good, mate. I feel a lot better for it. So
I now know what my role in this bloody lark is. It's to calm you buggers down, isn't it?
Look, it's Series 5. Get used to it by now. It's fine. Keep your comments coming in. Richard says to Bowery's defence here, if Hawkins gets injured and Johnson suspended, who leads the line if not Bowery? And to be fair, you know what? My rant was tongue-in-cheek. If you didn't pick up on that, then... but I think
it was.
I still think there's more there. I still think there's more ahead of him. I think you've got Oates, who was fantastic when he came off the bench last night. You've got Nathan Kane, who's sniffing around to try and get himself in the squad and get some experience. You've got Tyrese Sinclair. Lapsley can play up there as well. I think we've got options. I actually think that Bowery would be much better suited if he was, just utilised elsewhere on the pitch, mainly at centre back. I thought he was great there. But also, that aside, what I do think is not suiting Bowery and a lot of the players is the situation around the formations. And this is what leads me to my next point, and which is something I think deserves conversation, deserves debate over, and that is, should it be a diamond or a 4-3-3? Should it be a diamond or a front three? Let's go around the panel. Let's see what we make of it. Clearly, at the moment, for whatever reason, the diamond is not working, and it's not suiting our style. Clive, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, it's just not right. It's not working. It's making the worst of good players. We've got the position between Lapsley, arguably the most creative midfield playmaker we've got, and Oates doesn't work on that situation. And therefore you're getting worst from both of those two players. 4-3-3 works well in that situation. And I think when we've played 4-3-3, we've been a threat. As soon as we revert back to this crinkly diamond that we have, we lose that threat. And I can imagine why the strikers we've brought into the club get frustrated, because we're not sticking to a format. So I know I'm not a professional football manager. I don't pretend to know everything about the game, but I know this. It works better as 4-3-3 from what we've seen this season. End of me.
Cam.
The frustrating thing is that whenever I've seen us play, the diamond work going forward, but it's just the defensive line. Like the amount of chances that we created in them first 4 games was ridiculous. You think going into the Bradford game, us and Bradford had created the most chances in the league, and it goes out and plays out a 5-goal thriller. It's fantastic to watch, but it's just that defensive instability that I think shows the weaknesses in the diamond. I don't think it gives us enough width going forward. So you think if you've got sort of like Callum Gordon playing instead of Elliot Hewitt, you've got that bit more width going wide. So it's like just getting up the pitch. Take that out of the game, Elliot Hewitt sits far too back for me to play that sort of style. But who do you play in that position when Gordon's not fit? I think my background's gone off. But it's that lack of depth in defence, I think, that really makes holes in the diamond, because we just relying on the midfield too much because we can't rely on the defence, if you get my point.
Nath, what about you? What's your take on it? I think we've got an even split so far. Where are you? Which side of the fence are you? Where are you going? Are you going Salford or are you going Edwinstowe?
I'm going Edwinstowe. I'm 4-3-3. However, I do see the benefits in the diamond, but I think the problem. I actually agree with Cam a little bit. It's worked for us going forward, but I think the opposition have learned how to exploit us in that They see our weaknesses, and in that formation, I think we're more exposed with it. So I think it's more of a fact that not necessarily what we're doing wrong in that formation as such. I think it's the personnel not working with it, and then the opposition know exactly where to hit us, and they're taking advantage of it. So I'd like to see the 4-3-3, and I hope to see it on Saturday.
Yeah, I completely concur. I actually disagree with a little bit that you said in there. I don't think it's working for us going forward as much as it can be. I think we can be much more of a threat than we have been. And I think a lot of the key hitters, a lot of the key players who have been pivotal to our success, more so last season, are not getting enough out of that diamond. They're not performing in it because they're almost out of position and having to cover and to almost, have to play a completely different role.
But I also think, sorry, just to cut you in, I think creating chances is what we're able to do in that diamond. It allows them, the midfield players, to push a little bit higher up. It's just the width that's then the issue. You think the amount of time Stephen Quinn's out of position because he's covering here, there, and everywhere, and I don't think it's down to the midfield that the diamond's necessarily failing. I think it's down to the strikers not actually putting the bloody chances away. You think the amount of chances that we actually, realistically in a game, we do create and how many we actually put away. And it makes the whole team look bad because we're not scoring. When you look at, like, just for the Bradford game, for example, or the Newport game, we were creating so many chances, we just didn't put them away. And then that was punished at the other end. It's just, is Clough going to stick with the diamond and then change personnel, or is he going to think like throw the dice, go front three, and it gives us that little bit more width, and that then gives us a little bit more cover at the back because because teams aren't going round the midfield like they were. So like when Andy Cook scored their third goal, that was down that right hand side. Because Elliot Hewitt was exposed, it's because the midfield was too narrow.
Well, there's my point. It's the fact that they are out of position. They're getting dragged away, and they've not got a safety bank, and we're not utilising as much as what we can. If you look at what we were saying towards the back end of last season, and that is that we've got one of the best midfields in League Two, if not potentially in League One. All of those midfielders could play in League One, but for whatever reason, it's not quite worked. When you had that bank of three, you had, Quinn on the left-hand side of it, Clark on the right-hand side of it, and then Maris in the middle. But they were all sat central. They weren't drifting. Ollie Clark now drifts so far out to the touchline. Parts of the game he's sat in the Ian Greaves lower because he's playing that wide, and he's not that type of player. He's much more of a central focused player, someone who can bring the ball down and spray passes left, right, and centre and see that vision. You're not going to get that from him when he's stuck out wide, and he's not the type of player that can go in, for me, beat a man and put a cross in. He's the type of player to break up play and to build play and be the engine. You've got the players in our system that can really, really push on. You look at having Kel Gordon and Stephen McLaughlin as the two fullbacks. If you've got a three with Stephen Quinn on that left-hand side, which is where we do a lot of our play, McLaughlin can push forward a lot more. Quinn can go with him, but then you've got Clark and Maris who can come and sit in. They don't do that in the diamond. It crumbles far too much, and people just play through us, and that was highlighted for me at Swindon and in the way they scored the goal. And if you watch back a few of the other goals that we've considered this season, it's been the case, and it only takes a good manager and a good coach to work that out. So for me, we have to look at going back to the 4-3-3. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Should we be going back to a 4-3-3? Should it stay as the diamond? Richard says, I'm for a 4-3-3. As when we're under pressure, the three in midfield becomes a five, and absolutely, and that's what sort of makes it a little bit tighter. But I don't know whether it's a question of stubbornness in some ways, not in a negative way, Nath. But I think Clough has worked so hard on trying to get us to play a certain way. Is he going to want to change it after only 5 League Two games?
I mean, he did. We did play a little bit, didn't we, in the Swindon game for a period? So,
we did, and those 2 periods where we played 4-3-3 were the best period. And when we switched back, it went belly up.
Absolutely. So because we we have started introducing it. I don't think, and I hope he won't be too stubborn and stick with a diamond for too much. I think it will be worked on, but I just hope it's one of those that, to try and turn our fortunes around whilst things aren't quite working for us, then we need to be brave and change something. Like you said, or somebody, I don't know if it was Cam or somebody said, is it going to be the personnel that changes in this system, which I don't think is going to make much of a difference, personally. So the alternative is let's change the system and see if we can get more out of those key players that haven't quite been firing. So I think Clough can be sort of resolute in what he wants, and he will want that diamond to work. But the fact that he's already introduced it a little bit makes me think that he is willing to give it a go, especially when it did work for us last season as well.
Yeah, I think that there's certainly the potential there to go back to it and to tinker, because as much as I'm sitting here ranting now about not playing a diamond and playing with a 4-3-3, there'll come a point at some point later in the season, Clive, where we'll be saying the opposite. We'll be saying that's not working for a while. Let's go back to the diamond. I think we've got to just be open to being flexible and a little bit more fluid in our approach.
Of course. All we're saying, I think we're all in agreement that at the moment it's not working properly. And that's down to individual performances as much as format. So it could be that the format isn't the problem, but it isn't working at the moment. That's all I'm saying. And I think we have to try these things. I also think there's a case for changing format mid-game as well. I mean, the other day when we got a goal lead at home, and we were going to be under a certain amount of pressure following that, we should have reverted at that point to a more defensive format. And I blame the management team for not doing that, because in my lay opinion, that would have been the right course of action. But, on the other hand, we could have broken through and got another goal, and we didn't. But I think I feel safer with a 4-3-3, but I'm not saying that the diamond hasn't got a place. It's personal opinion at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree.
The person whose opinion matters most is Mr. Clough.
Yeah, it is. But that's I think there's got to come a point, hasn't there, where might have to just do a little bit of appeasing for the fans. But again, I think it comes down to personnel, because we were saying before, I think we didn't really change the back four apart from Hewitt in the last few games. That's now going to change again with the two new lads coming in. Certainly with James Perch out, for a little bit longer, that back four is definitely going to change. There's potential issue with Rawson as well, who felt a little twinge in his back last night at Harrogate and was substituted off. So that's definitely going to change. And the midfield has pretty much stayed the same, but we've also had new additions in there. We've got Ryan Stirk back in training, hopefully on Friday. I don't think he'll be in the squad on Saturday, but he'll be back available. And then you've got a complete new forward line. It's just about everybody finding their way and their rhythm. But I just think we've got to find it, because you've also got Harry Charlesley to think about, Clive, to come back in. And, he played on the right-hand side of the diamond last night. Was all right, didn't really get much chances, but the link-up play between him and Lapsley when it was a 4-3-3 last season was, it was... what's the word I'm looking for? It was like psychic, wasn't it? They could read each other. They read each other very, very well indeed. And I think, if there's that potential there for them both to play, then get the best out of them, then let's do it. Well,
it hasn't happened this season because they've not had the chance to do it. But if both players continue to improve, as I can see in Lapsley at the moment, we've not seen enough of Charlesley to judge him at the moment. But if those two players can go back to the sorts of form they had last year, then they should be the first names on the team sheet each game. We've got plenty of strength in midfield. It just hasn't worked so far in the way we expected it to. Before this season started, I was one of those people saying, when we've got the best midfield in League Two. I still believe that. It just hasn't hit its form collectively at the moment. But the good news is it's still there to come out. The strikers are going to hit form at some point. I have no problem with that. It's frustrating at the moment from, as Cam says, we were making chances, they weren't being put away. On another day, we make hardly any chances and we score 2 goals. That's football. You'll get one come off your backside when you don't deserve it. But we've deserved to get more from the games we've played this season than we got. That swings eventually the other way.
Yeah, it does. And with that, I think that's an apt time to look back and review the opening month of the campaign. Obviously, ended in defeat last night at Harrogate in the Papa John's Trophy. We
Who
sort of
cares?
had our say on that. I care because I wanted to see the 10 grand and I didn't get a coffee and a sausage roll. But Cam, as opening months go, compared to where we were, we've built almost a new squad. Fans have been back in. It's been great to see. It's been great to get to games again. We've had a really tough run of opening fixtures as well. And had a quick turnaround on some of the games as well. What have you made overall of the opening month of the campaign?
I'm just getting the league table up. Average. I think, could we have started better? Yes. Could we have started worse? Hell yes. You look at compared to where we were last season, we've got 2 wins on the board. Last season, we didn't do that until November. So you've got to take this season with a pinch of salt. We always knew when Clough came in last November that it was going to be a building season, and obviously Clough did say he wants to go for promotion. He's going to be pushing, and I think it is. Did he say that to give himself a bit of motivation? Possibly, players' motivation, possibly, but I genuinely think he believes that, and I think yes, it was frustrating to lose at Swindon, and yes, it was frustrating to lose the way that we did against Bradford, but I don't think Nigel will be too worried at this stage. We sat in 7th at the end of August. The season's not won at the end of August, at the beginning of September. It's won in April and May. So there's a long way to go. So like I said, it's frustrating to lose the way that we did in them 2 games, but there is a long way to go. So I'm not too worried, and would have maybe liked to pick at least 1 more win up, but I'd take 2 wins, a draw and 2 losses. Quite happy with that personally.
Nathan, what have you made of it?
Yep, average. Because it's literally 2 wins, 2 losses and a draw. It's average, isn't it? But when you analyse it game by game, the games we won. You could argue we didn't play as well, and the games we didn't get the maximum points from. You certainly would say we deserved more. So, based on that, I do think there's more to come from us. That's 100%. I do think we are going to get better, and that's why I'm not losing my head and not panicking over just a few games where it hasn't quite come off for us. We've had a goal over the line that's not been given. We've had penalties given against us that definitely shouldn't have been given. So a bit of luck and a bit of our own. Well, we create our own bad luck in the sense of giving away, soft goals. So hopefully, we'll get that sorted. But I certainly think we're a better side than last season, and that's all I ask for each season, is to build on what you did last year. If that means we don't quite get promoted, then so be it. But as long as we've improved, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I don't think we're anywhere near in that position yet to start thinking about how this season will pan out. I think that the start is important. It's important to get off to a good start. And for me, I think we have made a good start considering the opponents we've had. You look at those games. Bristol Rovers, of course, at home on the opening day. That was always going to be a difficult game because it was the first time that fans have been able to go back properly in league fixtures. It's the same for home and away, so there was an atmosphere there. It was tense, and that showed in the game and in the attendance as well. Newport, Bristol Rovers, of course, as well. I didn't even mention this, that they were relegated last season. They'll be itching to try and bounce straight back, and Joey Barst will be desperate for a promotion on his CV. Newport County, of course, as well, the following week. In the league, same scoreline, similar sort of game, a little bit nervy, but again, another side that are going to be up there towards the end of the season. Colchester, you never really know what to expect with them. They were in a bit of disarray, but have clubbed together and got that sort of thing of unity and driving forward, and that little bit of luck, it didn't really come off for us. And then Bradford, strange game. Again, really, one which when the pendulum swung one way and then the other, and a little bit of individual errors and things cost us, but it's fine margins, really. And then again, Swindon, we never do well at Swindon and came very close. Perhaps should have had a goal, should have done better with their goal, but it's coulda, woulda, shouldas. And if you take all of that into perspective, Clive, and add into the fact that we've had a couple of midweek games in there as well, a player isolating through COVID, a couple of injury knocks as well, and being one or two players short, of course, because we didn't sign the players until yesterday. I think we've done all right to be where we are. The only niggling concern I have is the fact that it's 3 consecutive defeats, albeit one in a competition we're not really that fussed as a club. But it's a squad mentality thing, and hopefully they'll be itching to put it right on Saturday.
Yeah, I think we're worried about too much here. The month of August, when we saw the fixtures, I think most of us said, "Christ, you couldn't have got a harder month to start the season off." We never get anything at Swindon, for instance, and we didn't. But if you looked at all the individual games, they were all going to be very challenging for us at a time when we were building a new team around some acquisitions as well. So to come out with the numbers of points we've got, we shouldn't be too disillusioned. Yes, we should have got something. We should have got a point against Bradford. We should have got 2 down in Colchester. We should have got something from Swindon. You know, it shoulda, coulda, as you were saying. And we'll get some of those. In fact, you could argue we got a penalty in the first game against Bristol that perhaps on another day we wouldn't have got. So swings and roundabouts. Let's see what happens at Walsall at home against this shower of Yorkshire pie makers on Saturday, and then against the Saddlers the following week. That'll be an interesting 2 games as far as I'm concerned.
Roy says we've played 4 out of 5 teams that are favourite to go up, so it might be average, but that's not too bad. But I do think we'll win on Saturday. More comments coming in as well. Richard says more positives than negatives. Frustration with the Colchester match and Swindon match. No one we have played so far has really impressed me. Sue says, don't you think we've been unlucky with match officials too as well? It all equals out though. Those controversial decisions. Yeah, absolutely. Keep your comments coming in on that. Little bit of fun for you now. We are going to start, as of next month, giving out prizes on this show. We're working very hard on getting some Mansfield Matters extra merchandise, some brand new mugs, maybe some T-shirts as well. We're trying that. But we're going to do it by way of a game because, as we know on this podcast, I love a feature. And they're all worried now. That's the silence of worry.
Anticipation.
Absolutely.
This doesn't get run by us, this is a surprise for us as well.
I spring this on you. Now, I was playing about earlier with some recording software and found a little trick that you can do in the recording software that I use, where you can reverse a clip. So I would perhaps say Craig Priest, and I could record it and then reverse it, and then you'd have to figure out who it is. So what I've done is I've recorded the name of a former Mansfield player, and I'll give you an extra clue, a former Stags Stories guest, reversed it, and all you've got to do is guess who it is. This one's for a little bit of fun. We'll start the proper competition next week. This one is out of Clive, Nathan, and Cam to see who can be the winner. So I'm going to play the clip for you. I'll play it for you 3 times. So listen very, very carefully indeed and see if you can figure out who this is. Here is the first reverse name. So there you go. That's the first play. After the first play, Nathan, any clues?
No, not a clue.
Not a clue. Cam, you had an eager ear there.
I think I've got one.
Okay.
Somehow.
Clive?
Not a clue.
Well, here's your second play. Comes at you very, very quick indeed. So the third and final play, and then we'll go to Cam to see if he can figure it out. Cam, you thought you knew who it was, or you thought you might know who it was?
I'm doubting myself now. I don't know.
What's the clue?
So the clue was it's a former, I'll give you 3 clues. Former Mansfield striker, former guest on Stag Stories, and his brother also played for the club.
Oh, that's a massive
Easy.
giveaway.
I mean, you just absolutely destroyed it there.
You didn't need to give us that last one. I think we could have got that from the first two.
It's quite clearly Richie Barker. I'm only joking.
God's sake.
Nah, I think we've got it. I think we nailed it. I mean, that was going to be my guess, so I'm a bit annoyed because I was going to get it right, and
Yeah. Of course
now
you
it's all.
I mean,
it's all gone now.
if I'm being honest, Nath, one of the third clue I was going to give was that his shirt is hanging up behind me, but I realised that you can't see it.
That's also, yeah. That's not fair.
I thought I'd go with the brothers clue. So go on then. Who is this? Go on, Nath.
Mickey Baldwin.
Cam.
Mickey Baldwin.
Clive.
Michael Portillo.
No, it of course is Mickey Baldwin. What we're going to do is I'm going to record one of these clips and then I am going to put it on a little QR code, which you'll be able to scan and get through our social media pages. We'll put the clip on there as well. It's going to be called the Mansfield Matters Mystery Voice, or the Mansfield Matters Mystery Name working title. And if you guess it right, you'll get entered into a draw to win some Mansfield Matters merchandise. So make sure you come back next week to get involved with that. What do we think of the new feature, which I thought about a minute before the show?
Good luck to everyone. Without the clues, that's a tough game, but you've got to be in it to win it.
But, we've thought of better ideas, but it's not the worst.
I wouldn't say
offended.
we. I mean,
I don't want to stifle I don't want to stifle initiative here.
I mean, Craig, it's still not as good as the COVID Cup.
Definitely not.
But
I'm off.
Yeah, definitely not. Nathan's gone. Before you do go though, Nath, come back.
He's not here.
He's there.
Gone.
The one feature which will remain is the podcast predictions. Nobody scored a point last week because we all predicted wins and we lost. Idiots. So this week we are, of course, playing Warsaw. So give me your predictions.
No,
Nathan. No, we're not. That's next week. Harrogate this week. It's been a long day. I even wrote bloody Warsaw down as well. What an idiot. It's the feature that's got to me. You guys can play along with this as well. I'll give you details on how in a minute. First, though, Nathan, because you're top of the divisional charts in this one, give us your prediction for Harrogate at home.
Hate to do it, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 defeat with Ollie Hawkins getting our goal.
Okay, Caminara, it works. Go for it.
1-0 win, Stephen Quinn to score.
Quinny on the score sheet. Go on then, Clive.
3-1 win, Lapsley, Hawkins, Johnson.
Okay. He's gone big. I'm going to go for... what do I do here? Do I go for the win or do I go for a draw? No, I'm going to back us. I'm going to say we're going to win and we're going to keep a clean sheet. First one this season. We're going to win 2-0 and the goal scorers are going to be... let's have Danny Johnson to get on the score sheet. And after... because it's his debut, we always like a debut goal. We'll have the new guy as well. We'll have the new defender who will play, whose name is slipping my mind, but you know who I mean.
Naughty.
That's it.
Naughty.
There you go. I don't know why I wrote RH on my piece of paper, but it's RN, not RH, but I knew what you meant. If you guys want to play along at home as well, you can do so. We'll put the link on our social media pages later in the week. You can just go on there every single week, put in your predictions. Nice and simple. You just put your name, put what you think the scoreline will be, and any additional goal scorers for bonus points. Let's end tonight's show by heading back into the dressing room one more time. Let's go back to the very start. And go to that. Obviously, transfer deadline day yesterday, Clive. We brought in Richard Nartley, the man I mentioned earlier. He's played with Clough before, and that familiarity really is, when you think about it, a little bit more reassuring than going out and getting somebody that's perhaps unknown.
Yes, absolutely. And if Clough knows a player from previous experiences, it makes sense to bring him in. And I think he's probably got plenty of potential. And if we can realise that at the mill and hopefully keep him on a longer contract at the end of it, then it'll be a really good acquisition.
I mean, your dog seems to like the thought of the acquisition.
Yeah, I've kicked him out. He stinks.
There we go. Well, whilst you give the dog some fuss, let's head into the dressing room then and hear from the Stags' new boy, Richard Nartley, on why he wanted to join up with Nigel Clough once again. Here he is speaking to I Follow Stags.
Now that I know it's all done and dusted, it's really relieving just to be able to get my head down and do as much as I can for the team. I spoke to the gaffer yesterday about the opportunity and if he was interested in looking for a player. And fortunately, the next day he called me and he said they're going to speak to Burnley, and if everything was fine with that, then it would go through. And here I am. I think it was a really big part. Playing with him before, he gave me my first professional games in the league. So. I already know how he works, what he demands off the players, and he really helped get this one over the line. I think it's pretty much impossible not to be motivated, when he's your gaffer. You can see how much it means to him, and when the manager cares that much, it kind of reflects on the players. So I think he drives everyone just to be better, and I really like that. You grow up around, probably some of the best players in Europe, so it pushes your level up. Each day you're training with them, and I got to see, what was expected from you at that age. But I think, going on loan, it really helps you get used to the sides that you probably don't learn, growing up at an academy like that, the physical side of the game, the little bit of smarts you need to have for the game. So I think the loan really helped me a lot as well. The technical side of the game, it was a lot more demanding on that side of the game. And then I think physically, there wasn't as much there. So you kind of probably, learn a bit too much of the technical side without getting that physical aspect, which is why I think, the loan move to Burton and the gaffer giving me the game time, helped me develop so much more. I really like to read the game and, try and intercept as many of the balls as possible, which I think I did and showed quite well when I got my game time at Burton. And I like to be composed on the ball. I like to play out from the back, which I know the gaffer really likes there as well. So I think, just do as much as I can to help the team, try and, do my best to get in the team, try and stay there. And, I saw how they played and how it worked under the gaffer last year when he came in and how well they did. So I just want to kind of do the same.
That's new defender Richard Nartley speaking to I Follow Stags. For more from him, make sure you head to mansfieldtown.net/ifollow. Very briefly then, let's finish on talking about Narty. You heard what he had to say there, Cam. A player that can read the game, a player that likes to play out from the back, but a player that knows Nigel Clough as well. Even though he's 22 years of age, a good schooling at Chelsea and Burnley, as well as some football in League One with Burton. He's got a huge opportunity on Saturday, hasn't he?
Yeah, it has. I suppose anything is better than what we've got currently, in some senses. But yeah, he's got to come in, settle into the squad well, and he's just got to perform because we have got players that are going to challenge him. You think Rawson will challenge him? You think James Clark can challenge him. It's going to be difficult for him to get into the squad. It's going to be difficult to keep a place in the squad. So he's just got to come in. I think he's got to have a bit of confidence because I think when you are brought in as a player and you're thinking like, right, what have I got to do? What have I got to do? Right, I've got to make a good impression for the fans. You've got to make a good impression for the manager, and you've got to make a good impression for the rest of the team. And all you can really do is try your best. And just go out there and perform. It's just difficult when you come into a team where there is a little bit of instability at the back and you're thinking, right, I've been brought in to do this job because they're not doing their job. So you've got to try your best because, if you do your best, then you could be in the team starting week in, week out. But you've also always got to be looking over your shoulder. Is somebody going to be looking for my place in the squad? And especially when he's coming from higher divisions as well, he should have that little bit more of a quality, a bit more class, and that offer that little bit more stability to the team. And obviously, Clough wouldn't have brought him in for no reason. He's seen what he's like. He's seen what he is as a player. He sees what he can bring to the team. And I think that's one of the biggest positives. If you're going to bring in a player, why not bring in a player that you've already worked with? You know the temperament of the player. You know you've got a good relationship with the player. is he going to solve all our issues? We don't know until he's played. So it's a difficult one to judge until we have seen. But let's hope he goes into the team on Saturday and puts in a good performance.
Nathan Cam mentioned there that he might find it difficult to get in the team. I don't think he will. I think he'll be handed his first start on Saturday. I think he's pretty much already got his name on the team sheet, hasn't he?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's pretty much going to be straight in, and I don't think there's necessarily that much competition at the moment, apart from maybe Hewitt. Really, I guess I think it's going to be between him and Hewitt to get that other centre back spot, probably alongside Rawson. So, I think he's pretty much secured a place at the moment, and unless he has some awful games, I think he might be quite comfortably in there until Perch is back.
Personally, Clive, I don't know your thoughts on this, but I think he should play Bowery and Nartley at centre back. I don't think Rawson should be anywhere near it at all. Would you be in for that?
Clive.
You're just trying to rile me now, aren't you? Because
yeah,
I have a much more clarity of view over Mr. Rawson than you people. The guy,
people, Cam, welcome back. You're now back permanent, and he's off.
Faz Rawson has fallibility. All players do. But what he does well. He makes a mistake every now and again. And I don't... Well, you can say that. We will spend a day looking at one other player and pick fault with them if you like. But no, we haven't got the best fullbacks. We know that. And with Perch out the side, this lad will walk in, by the way. I'm sure of that. Oh, by the way, isn't he articulate compared to most players? Yeah.
I think that kind of makes me think he's got a bit of intelligence, which you need kind of in that position as well. So
I think he's had some media training as well.
Potentially.
Well, after Jacob Mellis's experience as a youngster at Chelsea, I think they probably brought that in, didn't they?
Probably, yeah. Perhaps we could invite him along as a podcast guest. Anyway, the point is, I think he will get his place. I think he'll be alongside Rawson in the absence of Perch. And there are a few computations of the back four I think we can look at. But we have got that extra pair of legs now as cover, and that's the good news.
Yeah, I was distracted for a second because I caught out the corner of my eye, Clive, Cam in the bottom corner with the baby in the arms and her arms flailing. I was just thinking, Nath, it'd be really good if she hit him in the face.
Hang on, let me mute myself.
All in good time.
She was getting restless, but she just keeps clutching onto my shirt.
She's after your breast.
Well, I always said it was
one.
I always said it was a massive. No, let's not do that. Of course, we are at home to Harrogate on Saturday. Cam, before we let you go back off and be daddy duty, final thoughts on that one for you. Obviously, we've got a 3-1 defeat to avenge from Tuesday night in the Papa John's Trophy. Completely different side for both teams. Back at home though, let's get a win because we need it just to pick the spirits up a little bit, don't we?
We've got to go out and win. I think it's the most important thing. Get that confidence and that bounce back into the team, and just really see what these new signings can actually do. Because like you said, if he's going to walk straight into the team, he's still got to make a bloody impression on the team and actually put in a performance. Because it's just going to be one of them seasons where you're going to be chopping and changing players, especially if Perch is out for long term. Is he then going to be guaranteed to come straight back into the squad when he does? Right, I'm going to go because someone's restless.
Hit him in the face. Hit him in the face.
No.
Definitely do. Listen to your Uncle Craig and hit him in the face. We'll see you next time, Cam. Thanks very much for your thoughts. Send us my best and give her a cuddle from me. The baby, that is, not his missus. Nathan, your final thoughts on Saturday's game?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I've gone for a defeat, and obviously I hope I'm wrong. Hopefully, although Tuesday night doesn't matter, hopefully some of those players come into Saturday and want to get a bit of revenge. I think at some point a couple of scuffles in the second half, so hopefully a few words are said, and that'll be a bit of fire in the belly to go out on Saturday. But the issue is for me, Harrogate have started flying. They were very unlucky to not have a 100% win record. So I think obviously they've got a game in hand, haven't they? So if they won 3 drawn 1, something like that.
Yeah, second in the table at the minute. 1-3 drawn 1, 10 points. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're flying at the moment, and we're sort of a bit unstable. So I obviously hope I'm wrong, but I just think we're in for another tough game. Like we've had some hard games at the start of the season. I think this is another one you can definitely throw into that hat.
Final thoughts from you, Clive?
Yeah, much the same. It's going to be a tough game, but I think the players are up for it. I think we deserve a bit of luck as well. We deserve an official with eyes. I think it might just happen this Saturday, and we do for some goals, aren't we? We do for 2 or 3 goals. So it's going to be Saturday. Let's
certainly hope so. The words there of Clive Parkin. He'll be back with us on Sunday in the Sunday sermon. Make sure you join us for that. For now, though, that's all we've got time for here on the Mansfield Matters podcast. I'm looking forward to getting back to the One Call Stadium and to be able to buy a sausage roll and a hot drink without having to give up change from a £20 note. Harrogate, take note. I'm also looking forward to seeing the new defender. We'll see the other new defender in a couple of weeks' time when he's fit. And hopefully a much improved performance. Let's get 3 points on the board. Let's keep the One Call Stadium rocking. And let's make sure that when we're here on Sunday for the Sunday sermon, we've got smiles on our faces. From me, Craig Priest, from Cam Felton and little baby Evelyn, from Nathan Edge and from Clive Parkin, my thanks to all of you. Thanks very much for watching, for getting involved. This is a show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. I hope Evelyn's done a really smelly poo and Cam's got to deal with that. I'll leave you with that for tonight. That's my final thought. Good night. Expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual.